And that bloodshed cannot come from any human being because we are all sinful. So it's not enough. So the only one who combined being full God and full man at the same time was Jesus, and he acted in that sense as mediator between mankind. I hope I didn't misstatement. There might be variety, but in essence, that is the only area. And I think, in a way, differences may be boiling down to that person, and that's the person of Jesus, peace be upon him. So I wouldn't say that this is something defective or missing. I'm simply saying this is the base of all other differences in the matter of salvation, because they're all predicated on that notion. The Quran, while, like I said, immense, there is no single verse in the Quran that reflects negatively on Jesus. In fact, I dare say that it's even more positive than the New Testament, except for the question of deification. And I can give you an example of that if you want. I mean, even more positive on that sense. But still present him as a great prophet, created by the power of God in the womb of his mother. So any other difference, creedal-wise, is only that. Not all creeds even, because the belief in hereafter also, in the consequences of our moral choice, there's no difference even in the belief. The question of divinity and whether the explanation given by our Christian brothers and sisters is acceptable or compatible with the Quran or not. But short of that, if you look at moral teaching, devotion to God, even act of worship, Muslim bow down. And if you look into the Hebrew scripture, Moses fell on his face and bowed down. That the sujood Muslim do. Jesus, in the day of the night of Gethsemane, he fell down on his face and prayed to God. You find all prophets actually showed that humility before their Creator. So even the fasting, it might be different, but there is many elements of fasting. Charity, as we heard earlier, that's a manifestation and acid test of our love of God. Pilgrimage even, whether it's Jerusalem or to Mecca. So ibadat, the moral teaching, concern for society, for fellow human, loving God and loving your neighbor and all of this. You can, and the reason, by the way, for that similarity, not unlike some people say that every prophet is copying from those who came before him, but all of them copied from the same source, because it's the same one God who revealed this core teaching to all prophets in history. No wonder they find that similarity. Variations were only in some legal details or something that might change from time to time, but that core is all there, even though there might be some of those differences. I hope you didn't mind my frankness, but again, I said we do that in all respect and love, for the sake of understanding.
This is for Dr. Badawi. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate the comprehensive coverage that you gave to the Islamic conception of God's love and our love for God. One, however, bright line that I do see between your presentation of love as it is in the Quran and the Christian conception is the love for enemies. I listened very carefully, and I hope I didn't misrepresent you, but I heard you say several times that our love for humanity, for our community, for our neighbors, is so long as they are peacefully coexisting with you. Where I contrast that with Jesus' words that we are to bless our enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And if someone strikes you on the cheek, you are to turn the other cheek. Am I correct in noting that as a bright line between conceptions of love in Islam and Christianity?
Yeah, it's a common thing that is shared but mostly unknown for many people. The Quran in chapter 5 verse 8 actually speaks or implies love of the enemy even though he might be doing wrong to you. It says, stand for the sake of God in justice, and don't let the hatred of others to you, i.e. your enemy, dissuade you from being just, meaning just in their treatment. And justice, like forgiveness, like mercy, is a manifestation of love of God and love of the human as well, because you don't just have that hate because he hates you or attacked you. So that's there. Secondly, in terms of praying for the one who oppressed you, it happened several times in the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Number one, in Mecca, when he went to the nearby city of At-Ta'if to invite people to Islam, they were very resentful, they were very aggressive and rude, they send their children and say, pelt that man with stones. He was hurt physically. His feet were profusely bleeding. And then he sits at one place and makes his famous prayer to Allah, to guide. The angel came to him, Gabriel, he said, and he said that God is not pleased with what they have done to you. And if it's okay with you, if you want, God has given me the permission to crush those arrogant, aggressive people between these two mountains. And in the history of the Bible and Quran, there are nations were all totally destroyed, the Pharaoh and others, either drowning or whatever. And the Prophet responds. One response that he said, no, because I pray to God that out of their lions, their descendants, there will come people who worship him. That was very prophetic because that's exactly what happened later. Secondly, some narrations also say that he repeated words that shows that Jesus and Muhammad received from the same source. Almost word for word, he said, "Oh God, oh Allah, forgive my people," continue, for they know not what they're doing. The same light, the same guidance that God has given him. Secondly, even when Muslims had to stand up to defend themselves after 13 years of torture, the love of enemy was manifest in his behavior. One is to try his best to use means other than conflict in the battlefield, some of which were to make or forge alliance with some of the tribes, even non-Muslim tribes around Medina, like a sort of peaceful coexistence with them. You don't support anyone to attack us. You're not required to accept Islam. It's up to you. You decide on that. No requirement. And we will not help anyone attacking you. That's an act of love in itself. Try to avoid even killing an enemy. Number three, he tried his best even when people were bent on aggression, especially the Qurayshite people and their allies, by giving them all kinds of opportunities, as we have seen very clearly in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. That was the ultimate of trying to avoid military conflict. In spite of their aggression and preventing him and his companion from going for pilgrimage to Mecca, even after they spent all that time walking, there was no jets, all that suffering, that they told them, you go back. He said, okay, we'll go back. You come next year, we'll come next year. You come only for a few days, yes, we'll accept that. And he was not that person who was afraid of people. But I'll tell you why he was giving all this asymmetric condition. They tell him, look, if any of those people who accepted Islam want to apostate and come back to Mecca, you don't prevent them. Let them come to us. He said, yes. He said, but if one of us here want to embrace Islam, don't accept him. Return him back to us. Unfair. He said, yes. All of this concession is for one thing that he was demanding. His prize was peace. He said, provided that we all agree that there will be peace between us for 10 years. We don't fight you, you don't fight us. Free trade, like you say, we move around and talk with one another. Within a year and a half before they broke the treaty, he never broke any treaty. A year and a half, more people embraced Islam than the previous 15, 16 years. And that continued throughout history. Islam spread much faster when there is no animosity, because in animosity people are dug in their trenches, hatred, and the propaganda, all the foxes and wolves and are always spreading that false propaganda, generating more hate and more antagonism, and sometimes instigating violence. When they broke the treaty, then it was their fault, because the Prophet was trying his best to normalize relationship and let people talk to one another. And then came another moment that is amazing. When he entered Mecca victoriously, basically